What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of COURTSIDE with Camden. I'm your host, Anna. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. It is February, and today's episode is going to be dedicated to Black History Month. Typically, I introduce my guests and kind of give a rundown of who they are, but we're going to switch things up today. Here with me to discuss and educate as best as she can, it is Olivia Jack, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself now.
Hey y'all, my name's Liv Jack. I'm a senior on the women's swimming and diving team. I was born in Saginaw, which is where most of my mom's family grew up and where my grandparents still live. I spent a couple years in Barbados and then I lived in Brooklyn for a while, and now my immediate family lives like in upstate New York outside of Albany. So I've kind of traveled a little bit. I am the oldest of four. I'm also Vincentian American, so my dad is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I compete for Penn State swimming and diving, but I also swim internationally for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When I'm not swimming, I'm majoring in marketing, and also I'm planning on finishing a minor in Spanish. And outside of school and swimming, I work at Starbucks, and
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of a new thing. I just honestly wanted to know like how to make the drinks at Starbucks,
Oh my
so that I
gosh.
could like come home and make it myself. But
Okay, what's your favorite drink? I have to ask.
I actually like the nitro cold brews because
Okay.
I really like the caffeine, especially like before I have sprint practices. It's a great option.
So clearly well-versed, very impressive. I'm going to give some snaps for that resume. Talk to me about the different
Thank you.
organizations. Yeah, of course. Talk to me about the different organizations and clubs that you were involved in.
So first, I am a student athlete representative in the Big Ten Equality Coalition. So in around June of 2020, they started it. And right now there's like around 2 athletes from each school in the Big Ten, and then a couple coaches and some athletic administrators or like staff that are part of athletics, that are representative of each school. And we meet tri-weekly and kind of talk about ways that we can work together as like Big Ten universities and be more inclusive for all kinds of athletes, like not just Black athletes, but just diverse athletes in general. And then I am the vice president of the Caribbean Student Association on campus. So because I just like wanted to be part of my like Caribbean community here. I am the president and founder of the Black Student Athletes Association. I started it in June of 2020, and I really started it just because I noticed that there was a similar kind of organization at a lot of other schools across the country, and we didn't have something like that. And I really wanted to just start it so that the Black student athletes that come to Penn State and that like will come to Penn State in the future know that they have like a group of athletes and like a kind of family base that they'll have like when they come on campus just for support, because sometimes it's hard to like I've noticed, at least being the only Black athlete or the only Black swimmer on my team, sometimes there's things that like you would like to talk to another Black athlete about, like experiences on campus or just in life, that it would be nice to have like another Black athlete to talk about. So that's like the main reason why I started it, just kind of like a support system and a family environment.
That's beautiful, and you're clearly leaving quite a legacy behind you. So you mentioned like just the importance of being surrounded by people who understand you and feeling supported in that conversation. And the theme of Black History Month this year is Black health and wellness. Why do you think this was chosen this year in particular, amidst, the chaos of the last few years, and how relevant it can be?
Well, I think health and wellness has been a lot of people's focus in general for the past couple of years, just because COVID has been an absolute train wreck to society. But
That's an understatement.
yeah, I think the reason why Black History Month is focused on Black health and wellness this year is probably because a lot of times, like in the healthcare system, it obviously things are progressing and getting better, but there's a lot of issues within the healthcare system with regards to minorities in general and their treatment compared to the majority. And so I think it's probably just shedding light on those issues, because especially with COVID and so many people being hospitalized, that those like the mistreatment of Black patients has probably been especially highlighted in the past couple of years. And I think also there's kind of like a stigma, especially for Black men, to kind of shelter their feelings and shelter their concerns about their health and wellness. And so like with health and wellness being a general concern in society for the past couple of years, I think focusing this month on Black health and wellness is honestly with the goal to like make sure that people in the Black community like know that it's okay to like reach out for help.
Can you talk about your experiences both with health and wellness as a Black female student athlete, you know, full shebang? Like, talk to me about that.
As a Black athlete, I think I would say like throughout my life, I wouldn't say that I've been treated as differently as others in the Black community have been treated. There's definitely like a difference in treatment of Black women in the healthcare system based on the color of our skin. And because I am mixed, I have like a lighter skin tone. And so I'm not as susceptible to the worst of treatment, if that makes sense. And I've definitely noticed throughout my life that I am treated differently when I go to doctor's offices or appointments with my mom than I am with my dad. The treatment process is a lot slower with my dad, and the doctors kind of speak as if we have to be talked to as like really young children. So just like the difference between those two has been extremely noticeable throughout my life.
Mm-hmm. Within the Penn State community, have you felt unequally or mistreated by peers, teammates, whatever it might be, like on campus? What has your experience been like?
I think at Penn State, for the most part, I've mostly experienced microaggressions. So like I don't know if it's like because there's people that aren't as educated on like the experiences of Black people or Black lives, or if it's just because that's how they were raised and that's what they believe in. But either way, I've experienced a good amount of microaggressions, and I feel like it's probably a mix of the two.
Could you define
Yeah,
microaggressions for those who don't know?
So I guess there could be my personal definition of a microaggression is when someone makes a statement that is prejudice and potentially racist towards someone that is from like a minority. So for example, if someone asked me, or if someone said like, I think your hair is really pretty straight, why don't you wear it straight more often? That might come off as a compliment for them, but for me it's more of like, oh, you're not like, my natural hair isn't fitting the societal like definition of what is pretty. So it kind of, that's the best way that I can summarize it.
No, that was a great example. I want to switch gears and talk about social media for a bit in terms of social justice. I think it can be such a powerful tool for movements, both positively and negatively. And we've seen how it can wake people up from ignorance. I think we've seen how it can just spread information like wildfire. In your experience, do you think that social media can affect real change? Do you think it is people hiding behind screens, saving face? Talk to me about that.
I think it's a mix of the two. I think there's things that social media can help with. It can help make people aware of situations that are going on around the country, because a lot of people our age use social media more than they watch the news on TV. So honestly, social media has turned into like a source of news for people our age. And so it's a lot easier to see what's going on around the country and around the world through social media. So I think that's a benefit. I I'm kind of I have mixed feelings about posting like the videos of like the videos directly from events that are happening, like when people post and repost the videos of shootings and
Mhm.
like police brutality. I think that there's a point where people should not have to see that, because it gets to be really traumatizing, honestly. And I think it can only be effective, so like for to a point. It's painful to see so many people going through that, and it's painful to know that like that video and all the people that are seeing it, that change really isn't going to happen from that. So I think those posts and reposts are kind of frustrating and painful for the Black community to see. Obviously, sharing those stories is extremely important, and getting the case into the public eye is extremely important. But I think that there's a better way to do it than sharing the like raw footage of it.
Mhm. I mean, I think that's a great point, and I think um, it goes both ways. But I think as hard as it is to see, first, like it also is necessary. I think for some people who are living in complete states of ignorance. What would you say in argument to someone who countered Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter?
Hmm.
Unfiltered.
Yeah. Uh, well, I think I've talked to my dad about this before. I think that when people say Black Lives Matter, it's not because all of a sudden all of these other people's lives don't matter. It's just because there have been so many instances in the history of Black people where our our voices, our feelings, our experiences have been completely silenced and shoved under the rug, and we've been treated like absolute, pardon my language, we've been treated like absolute shit. Yeah, I just think like Black Lives Matter is not supposed to make anyone that is not Black feel like their lives don't matter, because that would go completely against the whole movement. Like if you're trying to make someone that's been suppressed for so long feel like their voice and experiences are validated, there's no reason why that same movement would make other people would be attempting to make other people feel unvalidated, if that makes sense. So like the All Lives Matter movement, in my opinion, should, if they worked together, that's what would make the most sense to me. Like, because it's the same concept, but the All Lives Matter movement is saying, no, you guys are saying that just your lives matter, but the Black Lives Matter movement is just trying to raise the bar for for Black lives to be treated the same as all the other lives. If so, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone's heard or I would think everyone at this point has heard like tale of two houses with one's on fire. You don't throw water on both houses. You put water on the house that's burning, which at this point in time, and well, all of time really is Black lives in America. Um, in terms of back to like Big Ten Equality Coalition, what are you in the 2 years that it's been created, almost 2 years? I don't even know if it's been a full 2 years yet. What has been the most exciting change or progress that you've seen that organization moving towards? And if not yet, what is going to be happening soon that excites you?
Um, I think I personally do not think that and it's not just the Equality Coalition, it's a lot of things, a lot of like equality kind of organizations in this country. I think that there's so many great ideas, but for a little bit too long, it's been a lot of talk and
Mm-hmm.
not so much action. And so as much as I'm excited that it's a group and like there's a lot of plans going on, I know that there's been a lot more discussions on campus, on Big Ten campuses. So that makes me happy because people are talking about the issues and like making each other more aware. So that excites me, but there haven't been like any big like drastic changing actionable things done. And I think that goes for a lot of equality organizations in the United States and around the world. Um,
Yeah.
honestly.
No, I think that's entirely accurate and totally justified in feeling. I mean, I would say even like with social media, when I think about social media, I think that is a form of all talk as well. I mean, obviously, like we've talked about, spreading information as fast as you can is 100% a powerful tool, but at a certain point, it is just talk. Then you get into
Hmm.
the petitions and everything, and that's obviously real change. What would you like to be seen done differently, or not even differently, but like what would qualify as real actual change for you?
Well, I'll start with an example from Penn State first. I don't know if you remember, like before we came back to school, in the fall of 2020, there was a Penn State student that was driving in his Jeep. He yelled at someone on the side of the street. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but he yelled racial slurs at him. And the student basically didn't face any like repercussions from
Hmm.
that. And I looked through like the Penn State policies after hearing that they didn't do anything about it, and there's nothing in there like say like there's no rules or regulations when it comes to those kind of actions and any form of punishment at all. It's mostly just like we can't punish him because of like his freedom of speech.
Mm,
But I think that issue, specifically at Penn State, really needs to be covered because if it like how can a Black student come to Penn State knowing that someone like him still attends the school and feels completely free to say something like that? Like it's threatening and it makes people feel unsafe. So I think that there's like a line that he crossed and there needs to be some regulation change within Penn State that addresses those kinds of issues. Outside of Penn State, I think honestly, there's just so many things that need to be done outside of organizations that are working towards equality within like the United States government that that will probably take years to cover. But honestly, I think like a lot of equality organizations are doing the best that they can with the amount of freedom that they have and support from the government that they have. So I think until our government fully supports those kinds of equality movements, we won't really have the amount of change that we really need.
hmm. Thank you for your honesty with all that. Um, Let me ask you this. Is there any hope within you, realistically, that real change will eventually occur? Or do you think we will stay in this cycle of systematic oppression that we've been in for years?
Um, I think systematic oppression is kind of ingrained in the United States. It's kind of ingrained in it was there when they started the country. It's ingrained in the Constitution, and it's ingrained in the laws. And I think until there's like a really big change in all of those things, like we're gonna keep going down the same path,
And when you say like a
sadly.
change, no, no, I mean, it's the sad truth, like you just said. But
Yeah.
when you say change of those things, you specifically mean laws and governmental things that, like, starting from the top, need to be broken down.
Yeah.
For white allies, anyone listening who might not know, how can we best assist and push forward the topic of social justice to make real change?
Well, I think the best place to start, honestly, is education. And by education, I honestly mean like reading books, which not everyone loves to do, but you can always, like, when you're going for a drive, like put on like the audio of a book or something, or like listen to like really eloquent Black speakers. Just like really trying to educate yourself without asking like your Black friends and family, without asking them, like try to understand their background and culture before kind of approaching them with questions. To like Black culture, you'll have some kind of background and be able to have an educated conversation, because otherwise, when it comes time to like have conversations with allies, in my opinion, if they aren't as educated, it's harder to explain my experiences, because I don't know like how much they know. Like, does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's not
Okay.
your job to educate us, right? I think that's what you're kind of saying,
Hmm.
which I agree. And um, thank you so much for your honesty and your vulnerability and for joining the episode all together. It's so appreciated, and I know it's going to be very beneficial for a lot of people to hear.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks again, and everyone can tune back into the next episode of Courtside with Camden.